have amazing Adat Ariel professional staff, clergy, and lay leaders who want to do their part to reopen the ECC in as safe a manner as is possible. To be certain, this is a partnership with you, and we cannot do it without your commitment and support. It is our collective wish to rejuvenate and strengthen the spirit of the ECC community and help, which is part of what makes Adat Ariel the special place that it is. Now, who's up next? Oh,
me.
yeah.
Thank you, Lena.
Sure.
And hi, welcome everybody. I hope everybody's having a good evening. For those of you that were on our synagogue town hall this past Sunday, which I thank you for being there as well, some of this will be repetitive. Well, it'll pretty much all be repetitive information, but we felt as a group it was important to share some updates of where we're at, and more specifically, our finances. First of all, we all, of course, know about the temporary closing of our ECC and NEST program. And I'll let Ori speak more to that and to our hopeful timeline of reopening those programs. Our JLC, our religious school, is currently operating and is online. We have roughly 65 to 70 students in that program. And we are in conversation and hope that we'll be able to bring it back on campus post-high holidays. Our day school started about a week and a half ago, which is also operating online due to the mandate of the state and Los Angeles County. We have suffered greatly in our enrollments in both those programs. Just for everybody's info, our JLC had roughly 130 students last year. And as I just told you, they've basically been cut in half. Our day school had 115 students last year. They're at 68. Both of which are operating with deficits, but manageable ones. Our hope with the ECC and the NEST, when our intention was to open this past August, was to also be around 60, 65 kids, which was based on survey that we had sent out to our ECC families this past June. And it still would have operated in a deficit, even though through Ori and his staff and our community's efforts the last few years, ECC has been extremely profitable. For the synagogue, we were willing and came together and said, as with the other schools, we will operate it at a manageable deficit. But as Lena shared with you, our numbers, which never rose above 30, was not manageable for us. And the short and long-term effects we felt would be too great to handle. We have cut our expenses at the synagogue by nearly 50%, $3.5 million out of the expenses of Adat Ariel to try to keep in pace with the revenue that we have lost through our registration, through the ECC and the NEST not being here. And even with those cuts in expenses, which include 7% salary cuts for all staff at Adat Ariel, including our clergy executive staff, our teachers and administrative staff, we still are wrestling with a deficit of over $500,000. We are hoping through efforts of fundraising and starting to bring programs back that we will be able to manage it. And the good news is we are starting to get to a place where that is possible. We have had nearly 100 family drop in our membership, but we've also had over 100 families step up their contributions in membership to help us with these shortfalls. And we are grateful for that and those that have continued to support through their membership. We have announced today a new program, Adat Plus. Adat Plus, which Ori will also talk a little bit more in depth about. Adat Plus is a childcare program for kindergarten through 6th grade, similar to what JCCs around California and YMCAs are doing, where kids come with laptops in pods created by their families, and we simply step in as the parent to supervise their kids as they zoom into school. We have set it up in a way that we will be able to operate that program even once our day school and ECC programs come back on campus, hopefully in the near future. by putting them in locations on the campus like our social hall and Farber Auditorium, where we can create pods, keep kids distance, but also give them a sense of being with other kids and having some social and emotional growth at Adat Ariel, and offering that relief to parents that can't have them in their homes. The question has come up at our town hall why that program is able to move forward and not our preschool programs, but we're hoping that actually one of the things Adopt Plus will do, which is generate revenue for us, since it is a program starting from scratch and we only build it based on our registration. It doesn't bring with it any previous overhead of administration, that it will actually give us the financial influx that will allow us to bring back our other programs. As with the ECC, being able to bring it back with registration at any size, because we had to shut it down and unfortunately cut our staff, we now will be able to bring it back even with smaller numbers in an intentional way and only add staff as we move forward, as opposed to before, where we were hoping that registration would allow us to keep people employed on some or any level. So that's really where we're at with finances. I want to say I'm grateful that you're all here to listen. I look forward to your questions myself. And I turn it over to you, Ori, or Rabbi. Rabbi, you're next, yes? Rabbi Bernhard.
So good evening, everybody. It's great to be able to come together, to be able to share, to be able to see all the faces, as others have said. Very quickly, I'm just going to give a quick high holiday update in terms of the schedule and the programming. In terms of children's programming, not a lot has changed in terms of the services that we're offering. We have the Young Family to Feel It's Time, both on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, as we've done in the past. And then there's the family experience for older kids that we have on the second day of Rosh Hashanah and also on Yom Kippur. And then we have the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur program modified a little bit that we would have had were we on campus, but this is modified a little bit, obviously, for reasons of dealing with the pandemic. And we have that for the children from TK through to second grade, and then third grade to sixth grade. So in that sense, the program, not quite everything that we've done in the past, and we moved the times around a little bit just to be able to offer time programming at different times for everybody. And this way we've been able to try to cover as many different bases as possible and as many different age groups as possible. And then in terms of the adult services, what we did is we took the two services that we had, we combined them, and have created a mix of these different services, and also a mix in terms of how we're going to be presenting it. Some of it will be live via Zoom, and some of it is pre-recorded. It's Erev Rosh Hashanah and Ne'ilah that we're actually doing live from the synagogue, and the others are a combination of pre-recorded and as well as clips and videos that have been sent to us, as well as other programming that we're putting in. And I think that's the high holidays.
Thank you, Rabbi. And one more thing, ritual related, just a reminder that every first Shabbat of the month, we still do Tat Shabbat. We do a virtual Tat Shabbat. This Saturday, we will be having a Tat Shabbat. So please join us at 9:30 on Zoom. The link is available on our website, on the Adat Ariel website. So there's that. It's my turn. First of all, it's wonderful to see so many of you that I haven't seen in so long. This is going to be hard for me because I miss you. I'm lonely. I miss the wonderful, amazing people that I got to work with every single day. The administrative team, the staff, many of us still talk on the phone almost every day just to say hi and check in. I know this isn't easy for you guys, and it's not easy for me as well. And decisions were made for for the betterment of the future. So here on the slide, it says why, the why. I want to touch upon the why, my personal why I do what I do. Why does this dude, this male, why is he a preschool director? Why has he dedicated 20 years so far of his life to early education? It's because I believe in the future. I believe that tomorrow will be better today, and so on and so forth. And the way we do that is through our children. And how I do that is early education, is getting to work with all of you parents. And so right now, my how is being affected because I don't get to do what I've set out to do every single day. I do a semblance of it. But I believe in the future, and decisions that we made were for the future, to continue to provide for the Adat Ariel community, for a community that's been around for over 80 years. The why of Adat Ariel. Adat Ariel exists to strengthen the Jewish community and provide for Jewish individuals and Jewish families. They do it by having enriching programs that will engage you spiritually, emotionally, and just holistically on every level. One of those programs is the Early Childhood Center, the preschool, the nest, the parent and me, those Tat Shabbats, the Jewish engagement, all those things is what we do. And we do it to get you off to a Jewish start. And I look forward to having it come back. Because as I said in my communication, we're delaying the start of the Early Childhood Center. We didn't close it. We didn't sell the building. We delayed the start. And yes, there are going to be challenges, but I'm hoping that together we can solve those challenges, because I'm not going to do it alone. I can't. I'm just one person. But with your support and your input and your collaboration, we'll get it done, and we'll get it done hopefully better than ever before. I know this time has been trying for all of you, and I hope that you have found the time to just take care of yourself in any which way possible, and which will allow you, when we get to come back to our new normal, that we come back with a new purpose. And so I'm looking forward to coming back. What we're hoping to achieve is that after the new year, after the new year, I think it's 2021, we will bring back the preschool. I am aiming for, after the high holidays, to bring back Parent and Me, to have small groups on our campus in Parent and Me, led by our wonderful Julie. And if there is the demand, right now, I am also looking as soon as possible to bring back the infants. It really is contingent upon your feedback, though, and our communication. So what I'm going to do next week is send out an email to all of you, okay? Asking you if you're ready to come back. Because then I can send out registration and then we can come back. Because what happened prior was we sent out, are you ready to come back? And there were wonderful, wonderful, long, if this is here, if that is there, if this is in place and that is in place, absolutely. And we wanted to meet those challenges and address all of them. As many of you know, I struggled personally with some of the requirements because it didn't align with my beliefs and best practice for engaging young children. I struggle in a world that doesn't always look after the best interest of small children, because that's what I've set out to do. But through conversations and realizations, we moved past it. I'm talking about masks. We moved past it. But families still weren't ready to come back. Of the 65 people that said they were willing to come back, at no point in time did we have over 30 people that were willing to come back, that signed contracts and said we're ready to start. That created a challenge for us, a challenge that we couldn't. Personally, I'm not willing to pressure people or to sell false hope when people are uncomfortable and insecure. I'm looking at many of you right now, and I remember the phone calls we had about, I don't know, I want to be part of this. I love you guys, but I'm just not ready yet. And I said, I hear you. It's not your fault. You're not to blame. This isn't anyone's fault. A once in a lifetime occurrence has happened in our lifetimes. We are never ready for this or prepared. There's no handbook. Actually, there was, but we won't talk about that. But we want to come back and support all of you as best we can. But that requires you. So please, I want your feedback. I want your thoughts. I want your feelings. Many of you have contacted me over this time to tell me where you're at. I need to hear from more of you. As many of you might know, currently the Early Childhood Center is an operation of one. It's just me fielding emails and calling people and reaching out and connecting. I hope that soon it'll at least be an operation maybe of two, and then slowly we'll grow. We will grow. We will come back. There is no question about that. But how long and when, there is a question. So please, 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 I beg you, communicate with me. But I'm going to ask you to communicate with me through an email. So there's that. One of the things that I've been working on as well over this time, and Eric mentioned, is Adat Plus. And the idea behind Dot Plus actually is something that I've done in the past when I worked at a JCC, was to create an afternoon program for school-age children. When I worked at the JCC, I worked both in the Early Childhood Center and in our young children, our school-age children program. And I created this program, and I'm really excited to be able to launch it for our community with older children, to get them out of the house a little social, emotional development, and to support them in their learning at home. And once this Mishigas is over, we are going to have a robust after-school program at Adat Ariel that brings children from all over our area in the public schools and is able to support them in their learning. And a uniquely Jewish after-school program, which is very exciting. But this program is going to help us with some of our costs. It is going to help the day school and the JLC and the ECC. So I'm really looking forward to that and launching it. So if you know anyone with school-age children that is comfortable being in a pod of 10, please let them know that this is something that we're creating and to be in touch with me. Turning over my sheet of things I want to say. Oh. When we come back in January, we will be ready. We will be implementing the COVID-19 response addendum that we created, that we shared with all of you. It is a very in-depth strategy for safely bringing people onto our campus. We have answers to almost all of your questions. And why I say almost? Because we don't know some things, and that's okay. We'll figure it out together. We will approach it together and figure it out. And that is my approach to everything. And I'm sorry if sometimes when I say I don't know, leaves people feeling that I don't know what I'm talking about. It's not it. It's that I'm honest. I don't know. But I believe in the future. And I believe in all of you. And I believe when we partner together, we can solve these problems. So those are my thoughts. Thank you for being here. And I would like to open it at this point in time to questions from all of you. And so with that, Herschel will be moderating the question and answer portion.
Ori, can I just, before we get questions,
Do you have
clarify? I don't have a question. I mean, I have questions, but not for you. Just to clarify one thing, because I think Lena has said it and I've said it and now you've said it in a way, which is we keep focusing on this, we temporarily or delayed opening, temporary close, but I want everybody here to know that, because we didn't say it so far, but that internally we've had the conversations and recognize though that we have given the feeling and sense that we have closed because of a lack of communication, because we haven't had things like continuing our Havdalah or Kabbalat Shabbats. And part of what we're hoping tonight kicks off is rectifying that we have completely missed out on in the last few weeks or month. And that for us is apparent. And we wanted you to know that we recognize that and see that even though we keep saying we've delayed opening, it still feels like a closure when we've gone radio silent. And we recognize that, and we're hoping to rectify that kicking off with this town hall. Sorry, good.
Thank you, Eric. And actually, something that I wanted to talk about, I just want to, Havdalah and Shabbat, I want to do it with you. Please, what happened towards the end was it was me and one other child, which was very intimate and sweet. And I enjoyed it. But if people don't come, I can't, I guess I can pray by myself, but I would love to do it with all of you.
Yeah, but we'll get it back out there for everybody so that we can pick it up again.
Now,
hi everybody. My name is Herschel Bleefeld. I'm the Director of Communications at Adat Ariel. I will be leading the question and answer portion of the evening. I can tell you just from looking at the questions that have come in so far that everybody is asking things that are positive and moving the community forward, which I think is an interesting observation as we begin this. The first question that I'll field is an important one. Is opening dependent on the city enrollment, or is it a combination of both things? And is there anything else that it could be dependent on?
So for us, it's at this point, it's enrollment. But again, because we closed things down the way we did, the enrollment goal is a lot less than it was a few months ago, because we don't have the overhead that we previously had. As far as the city's concerned, we're allowed to. And the way that we've, as I mentioned, the way we structured Adopt Plus was to not infringe on the ability to get the preschool going. And then just a reminder that people, if you have questions, to chat it right to Herschel so he can get them out there.
Yeah. Another question that came in that piggybacks on that a little bit and speaks to something that all of you talked about, but I think there's some clarity that needs to be gained. Going forward, what will be done to make sure that communication is consistent, clear, and transparent?
That's a good question. And something that we've learned a big lesson about. I'm committed, and as I think everyone else on this call is committed, and something we all know, that communication is extremely important. And there was no excuse to have dropped the ball, and we apologize, and we will do everything, because it will be in our forefront, to make our story and our transparency and our opening out there for you to know all about how it goes and how it's phased. The ECC is very precious to me. Both my girls went through it a million years ago, not quite that long ago. They're in their 20s. Actually, one is 30 now. So it's very, very important to me. And it's where you as young families come in and get your first taste of maybe, you know, familial Judaism and being part of a community. And in my mind, it's extraordinarily important that we have an ECC and that we support the ECC. So I'll do my best to be a part of making sure that the communications to you are more regular and consistent.
Another question about communication, sort of about programming as well. There's some concern about Adat Plus affecting any of the other programs or sort of cannibalizing on any of those other programs. Can you speak to how Adat Plus will figure into our program slate, and does it really affect any of the other programs going on, including ECC?
Yeah, so again, we're blessed with the size campus that we have. So we are, for this portion of time that schools have to be online, we are able to operate this without infringing on the physical space of the preschool or even our day school by using bigger communal spaces. And the goal is that once we bring our ECC and our day school back on, we can still operate Adat Plus for any schools like LAUSD that might still be online. But ultimately, once we've gotten past this pandemic, is that this will transition to just being an after-school program. And one that will also encompass the enrichment programs that we've had to the ECC. Adat Plus will kind of become the umbrella for all those after-school enrichment programs. So hopefully it will seamlessly work into our other schools.
Another opening question. Is the actual plan for opening currently the same as it was for August, or has anything been amended? Is there something different that will happen now based on where we are in terms of LA County cases, in terms of the state's mandate, the state mandates? Can you speak to that a little bit?
I think we have a clearer picture of what's going on. I think that at the time that we were trying to open, news was coming out almost daily. We were just waiting to hear from the governor or the mayor of mandates and restrictions. And it was only recently that that LAUSD decided not to open. It was just a few weeks ago. And so I know that we're reaching a base level of this. And so it allows us to have greater understanding of what tomorrow will bring, because we're dealing with it for longer. I think also we have benefited from our colleagues that have opened. We have benefited from their trials, their errors, and it gives us strength to open up even safer with greater protocols in place.
Well, and I think also, Ori, just to tag on to that, information has changed even in the last few months. I mean, this being spread through surfaces, which at one point we thought like, oh my God, the cleaning alone that would have to happen would be insane, to the point where we were trying to map out having a maintenance person at every bathroom. We now know that that's not really the case. But we also kind of put it on the families, as you guys didn't sign up. But if we really look at it in June, when we asked you, the numbers weren't as scary. And then we moved into July when it just boomed and the numbers were really high. So it made sense that more people were hesitant. And now, I would predict that next week after Labor Day, we'll have a big boom of numbers again. But now that we see that this kind of up and down happens, we're better prepared to deal with that and kind of ride those waves.
Another question about opening up. And it's an important question that needs to be addressed. But I think you guys also need to speak to the word prioritizing, because I think there's some misunderstanding about it. What is the thought process behind prioritizing bringing back parent in me classes this fall ahead of ECC preschool in early 2021?
I'll tell you, it's it's easier to do, quite frankly, because it's babies. They're not as mobile. They're more manageable. They're with their adults there. The adults listen better, hopefully. And so it's something that we feel that we can do quicker, much quicker, in terms of bringing back children into a space. There's a lot more logistics that takes place in that. We need to get forms from you. We need to get payments from you. We need to put schedules together for your payments and so forth. There are logistics, much more logistics that go into place when starting up the 5-day-a-week childcare program, as opposed to a 1-day-a-week parent to me or 2-day-a-week parent to me program.
Another opening question. Can we rely on January start date? Or if you don't get enough kids enrolled, might you delay it again?
Well, I'm just going to pivot back to what I said earlier, which I'm happy to keep pointing out, is that because of kind of the purge we had to do with overhead and staff, it's actually like with Adat Plus, it's a lot easier to bring back the program even at smaller numbers, because we will hire now in accordance with the kids that we have, as opposed to before. Like if we had 5 kids in a class, it wasn't just supporting teachers, we also had other staff involved in that. We can bring the staff, and I know Ori has started to engage some staff already in terms of working Adat Plus and then transitioning back to the ECC. So we can bring that people along with the registration this time, as opposed to having all that staff and sitting around and waiting to see what the registration is. So it makes it a lot easier. I would say, and I don't want to put any words in Ori's mouth, that if there's a demand for earlier and we can get it together with staff, I think we can do earlier than January 2021.
Yes, if there's a demand. And another,
I was gonna, Ori, sorry, I was just gonna follow up with that, with what Eric said, which was the next question is there a chance of opening up sooner than 2021?
yes. Yes, and what I'll add to that is you have to also, as families, be ready for a program that looks slightly different than the one you left. Not only in the added precautions in terms of the spread of the virus to ensure safety, but also in terms of teachers. They won't be the same. You might have the same teacher for some of your children, you might not, but also class groupings might be different, because it depends on who we get. So typically what we have is a 6-month variance in age from the oldest to the youngest in any given classroom. We might not have those numbers, but if you're interested in being at a school that has mixed age groups, then absolutely we can run. And there's nothing against having mixed age groups of children. It actually creates for a very interesting dynamic. The dividing up age groups serves as a logistics tool very often. It does help them developmentally to be with their peers, but there are many programs that are mixed age groups, and that would help us get started, provide you with your essential childcare, and then we grow from there. But what we're looking at when we do start, whether it's before the new year or after the new year, the program that is won't necessarily be the program that goes into the summer and then the fall of 2021. So I just want to be open and honest with you. If that is something that you're interested in participating in, please, that's what it's probably going to look like.
I do have to just jump in really quick and apologize if anybody hears harmonica music in the background. That's my 6-year-old ECC graduate from last year playing the harmonica in the background, so I apologize. The next by
the way, in the ECC when we reopen. Just sorry, Herschel.
So the next question is about sort of what the community is doing and what our members are seeing other institutions doing. Has Adat spoken with other congregations about their reopening plans? We know that other congregations are opening up next week.
I mean, yeah, we're in constant communication with the congregations, or not just around us, but in Southern California. I'm on a network with executive directors from 38 synagogues from San Diego up through Santa Barbara. And I will tell you, half of them have opened their preschools, half of them haven't. A lot of it's about managing debt, which is the one common thread through all of them. Some are in different positions to manage that debt. Some debt is greater than others, and it really is individualized to those communities because there's a lot of factors that go into it. But I was even on the phone with the executive director from Beth Hillel right before this saying, hey, I want to come by next week because I'd really like to see how the preschool's running. And so, she said, no problem. And so we're not just in touch. We're having conversations with people who made the same decision as us. We've had conversations with those that made the opposite decision because we're trying to gather as much information and learn from those around us.
Great. Quick question about pods. Somebody had indicated that there was a little bit of confusion or discomfort with how the pod system would work. Could you talk a little bit about what it means for a class to be a pod and how they would interact with each other and what that means for the families moving forward if the place does open in January?
I think the pod question is really one in terms of the number of enrollments we get, because if we have 50 children, we would have 50 pods. The pods would be no greater than 10. And the pod would have those 10 children and their teacher. An issue, though, that we run into in early education is ratios. We want lower ratios for younger children. So you would have a pod for 2-year-olds of 5 with one teacher, which goes back to the budgeting issues that we came to. It's not the most cost-effective thing to have one teacher with 5 children. The greater the ratio, the greater the sustainability of it. And so pods is determined on what does the enrollment look like. If again, we go back to what I said about mixed age groups, if we get 20 children, we'll run with 20 children, and it means you would have 2 pods of 10, and we would probably put additional staff in there, but that's for us to look and crunch the budget numbers and see if it's sustainable.
Another question sort of about enrollment and how that's going to work. I'm just going to read it verbatim. We're still nervous about enrolling right away. Will we be able to return when we're ready and have our spot held? Sounds like you'll be hiring out of need, but will you start accepting new families that may fill up the program before we feel comfortable to return?
It's a chicken and egg kind of question, because again, I don't have a great sense of how many people want to return right now. I don't know, and that's why I need to ask all of you personally to reply to my email that I send out next week to that survey. In terms of holding a spot for you, we want you. We want you here. We want to figure it out. And so I highly doubt that by January, we're going to have 120 children. I could be wrong, but I just don't think that's the way it's going. And as we rebuild, we'll rebuild together. And that means together. That means you're involved.
And just from the synagogue side, we're committed to adding staff immediately if there's the demand for it. But I would also say when the executive director, Beth Hull, and I were talking this morning, one thing I think they did that was really smart was they opened a smaller program, like of 10, 15 kids back in like June when the numbers were low. And that gave confidence to other families to say, oh, well, they told us how it ran and it went well for them. And it kind of helped them flow through the spike in July, because they said they had a lot of nervous families come July. People were teetering on pulling out. But again, June helped them. And in retrospect, I wish we had done the same thing. I'm hoping moving forward that when we do come back, if you are still not comfortable, that hopefully other families will help in that process by seeing how we're able to operate, and then you will feel good about coming back in. But to reiterate, as Rory said, we're going to do everything we can to ensure that people have spots, and we're not shutting out, especially the families that have been through this with us.
We're going to transition to some questions about program. How will you help kids transition back and separate from parents after being home for so many months?
As many of you know, I put the social emotional development of young minds ahead of everything else. I don't care if a child can read and write until they're 25, because it's not important to me. What's important to me is that someone is able to care for themselves, that can recognize their emotions, can articulate their emotions, and can care for others. And that's something that we will instill in the teachers, and that's something they're going to work with. One of my greatest apprehensions about reopening was opening with the social emotional development of children in mind. This is not an ideal situation for them right now. I don't have the answer to it. No one does. Because I was afraid of children not being able to hear each other, of not being able to hug each other, be hugged by their teachers and have that affection that we need so much as humans to develop. It actually, when we hold each other, when we touch each other, it's affecting our body on a biological, molecular level. And so we need it. And so, yes, we will help them transition as best possible during this time with Zoom interactions beforehand, with home visits, with visitation days to the school beforehand, and guiding with you as partner to help explain what's going on. We were working on creating a storybook that address some of this. There are materials out there that have been created by other authors about wearing their masks and so forth. We will utilize all of that in order to help their social emotional development.
And I just to mention, our day school has had this challenge with kindergartners, slightly older, but it's a new school for them. And so we do have some in-house practices that we're able to look at. And they've done a brilliant job of bringing those kindergartners into a brand new school. It's their first time in elementary school, and they've done home visits, and they're operating almost completely online, but their teachers are making those personal touches. So we do have the benefit of seeing how our day school's been doing it quite successfully, and we're going to piggyback off of that and utilize what they've done.
One question about staffing. I know you touched on a little bit, Ori, but several people asked this question. Will our original teachers be coming back? Will there be original staff coming back, or is it going to be very hard to find them again?
There are several teachers that I've been in communication with that say, Ori, when you call me, I'm ready. And others, they had to go get jobs. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to be able to have a definitive closure at some point, because it was just to honor them, to allow them to be able to provide for their families. It wasn't fair to them to keep them furloughed. And so they are doing their thing. Hopefully they'll come back at some point, but it's going to look different. It's not going to be the same teachers. Some of them will be, some of them won't. But I'll say myself as well, though, in that, and again, many of you know this about me, I don't like to hire quickly. I look for quality in a person, and I look to figure it out and find a quality person to be at our school. We've had some of the most amazing teachers at our school, and we'll continue to have some amazing teachers at our school.
That completes most of the programmatic opening questions. There are several financial questions. We'll try and run through them as quickly as we can. Will there be financial aid opportunities due to the situation at the synagogue?
Yes, short answer. Definitely. And we've been using this time also to fundraise to keep the synagogue's finances healthy, so that we won't have to worry about not being able to support families that are going through a hard time right now financially if they're coming back. So yes.
Second question, can we make financial commitment to pay for our child's spot no matter when we decide to actually attend? For those not sure that are not sure about returning.
Yeah, we did this back in June, where you could like put a deposit down for your spot. We're always happy to take your money in advance. So yes, absolutely. We'll institute, and when Ori sends out his information, a similar, if not the same, program of save my spot, here's some money.
This next question is an interesting question because it involves parent participation. Is there any fundraising effort that we may engage in to help get the ECC started again?
Absolutely. Any fundraising effort would be awesome. It's, you know, we are a community, and we may be in different schools and we may be in different parts, but we all need to help as one. And we will be kicking off something that will be brought out, I believe, during high holidays, that we've been working on very hard. And we've already, you know, stepped up to many people have stepped up to the plate, but we will need many more people to help us. And so absolutely, in any way possible that the ECC or grandparents that are able, that would be wonderful.
One final question. Families who are ready, who aren't ready to go back and can't commit financially, any way to guarantee a spot to be held?
I think that was asked.
This is for families who can't commit financially, but are saying they would like to come back.
There's no, like I said it before, there's no guaranteeing, but we want to build together. And so when you're ready, we'll build with you in mind. That's the answer.
But yeah, but if you're going through that hard time right now, I would suggest to reaching out to Ori or to me or to the rabbi, and we will make it work. Whatever it is, to ensure spots, to make sure that our community is coming back strong.
Keep in touch. Just let us know.
That concludes the questions. Thanks everybody for submitting some really thoughtful thoughts, and I'll turn it back over to Ori and everybody else.
Thank you, Rabbi and Eric and Lena and Herschel for helping, and Sarah Schultz, thank you for being here as well. And thank all of you. In the coming days, you will receive, tomorrow's Friday. Next week, you will receive an email from me, but also I've been working with our parent association chairs to start to engage you as parents in some socializing as well. Please participate. It's good for you to not get out, but get out online in Zoom meetings, in some fun activities that we'll do together virtually. We really do want to engage with you, and we want to be there for you. And so let's do this together. Let's ramp it up. All right. So thank you all.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.